So it's been quite a few months since our last upload, where we put our abnormally lactose tolerant stomachs to the ultimate test by binging dairy for an entire day. A concept almost as ridiculous as the creation we concluded that challenge with.
What was I thinking?
But then we disappeared. With no warning, with no explanation. And while it would have been safe to assume that eating that unthinkable concoction probably sent us to our early graves, that was in fact not the case. So where have we been? And why did we quit making eating content for the past 90 plus days? Or better yet, are we officially retiring from this questionable hobby altogether? Well, there's a lot to cover here, but let's start by making one thing clear. We binge eat for content. At least that's been the overarching theme of the channel. We have created plenty of other styles of eating videos outside of big binges, but massive food challenges and excessive caloric consumption are what have worked best for us and what we're somewhat known for. And we'll get into how, and most importantly, why we landed there, but it's important to differentiate between the nature of binging for views and having a binge eating disorder.
One of the hallmark features of binge eating disorder is that people are unable to control their eating. They're not making the decision to have a cheat day. They're not making the decision to overeat. They are simply driven from the inside, without question by way of neural circuitry. They are driven from the inside to ingest far more food than they need, and in some cases than they would want to eat.
So just so we're all on the same page, everything we've done online has been planned in advance, and we can stop at any moment, and we have.
There's no reason for this.
And that's the thing, is like, I think we both hit that point when we left where it's like, this is gonna be nonsense. Like, we both, like, that was the final meal. That was the challenge right there.
Meaning we are very much in control and present throughout the entire experience. But our channel started simply as a place to test our limits and fill our own personal curiosities surrounding our appetites and our ability to eat large amounts of food, while also trying to create something moderately entertaining in the process. And it should go without saying that it is most certainly not a healthy hobby, and things have definitely gotten quite ugly by the end of some of those videos.
Ow!
How bad is it?
Let me get a shot.
You want the real deal? Want the full-blown baby, dude?
Yeah, that's the food baby right there.
We can't put that on the internet.
But having the capability of eating far more than the average person makes for quite the spectacle. I mean, there's a reason why channels like these have gotten as big as they have. We're a group of people with abnormally large stomachs and an interest in creating content utilizing them, and the willingness and discipline to make the many sacrifices that come along with balancing out such an extreme lifestyle. But that's not why you clicked on this video. Well, I don't know, maybe it is, and if so, we'll get there eventually. But you want to know where the hell we've been, and why we haven't been stuffing our faces on YouTube. Well, first off, this room looks a whole lot different than the last time we were here. The old space had essentially remained untouched since like 2019, and with filming and editing our videos taking up literally every spare second and dollar that we had over the last few years, we had no time or money to execute designing an actual set. But recently, we felt like it was time to give ourselves a filming space that felt inspired and fresh if we're to continue creating content. So it's taken a bit of time between conceptualizing, ordering, and installing everything, seeing we did it all ourselves. Had to pick up some extra work to cover the costs and still have a few tweaks with background lighting and whatnot, but it's come a long way and we're thrilled with it. But then came the real dilemma, and ultimately the reason we felt this video was essential to make. What do we want to use this place for? What do we even want to make next? And don't get me wrong, we have plenty of video ideas, legitimately too many actually. But each time we revisited our endless list of creative eating challenge concepts we'd been accumulating, we felt completely uninspired to actually make them. And those big high-calorie food challenges are really the thing that have worked for us on the platform. We have done plenty of other styles of eating videos, which a portion of our audience do enjoy, but they never perform well or stimulate growth for the channel. So as content creators with limited resources, we kind of stopped entertaining the idea of making those ones.
What's weird is when you know what's gonna work, but you don't want to make it. And I guess that's similar to when you talked about like the first, right? And you're like, I know that's the right idea, but I don't really want to make that one.
Yeah, right.
You know? And I know this one's not going to perform, but I want to make it.
But that's a tricky situation because now here we are with a new studio space and a dwindling passion for the thing we've become somewhat good at making that does capture the interest of our broader audience. And it was quite frustrating not understanding why we couldn't just make a freaking food challenge and get back to it. So we really had one major question to answer. Why did we start doing food challenges in the first place? And I actually already mentioned it, but that reason was to fill our own personal curiosities. It's actually the same reason we've always found accusations of faking content to be so funny. What we do was never to impress or trick people into thinking that we could eat as much as we can. That's gotta be the stupidest flex of all time. But it was always genuinely to find out for ourselves if these things were possible for us. For instance, we'd seen plenty of people fail eating the 5-pound Hershey's bar.
So close, look at that. I knew this would happen. I think I'm gonna have to just take the L, take the loss.
But we're rather good at handling large amounts of sugar, and we're quite patient eaters. So if we just hang out with it, could we successfully do it in a single sitting? What about eating every cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory? No one's ever completed it solo in one go, but could we tackle all 32 slices between the two of us at once? How about 100 Krispy Kreme donuts? I think you get the point. And after we became so familiar with our single sitting potential and could with almost complete certainty know whether or not we were going to succeed or fail a challenge, we played with different objectives, like how about we see if we can eat questionably large items in a single mouthful? Or how hard could it be to guess the flavor of protein bars without sight?
That's peanut butter cup.
What? What? And ultimately, what are our eating capabilities in a 24-hour time period? And that last one is where people really seem to show the most interest. And a lot of those same people really seemed to see the potential in the channel. But the amount of sacrifice and discipline that comes with balancing out doing big food challenges honestly, while the channel was nothing but potential, is pretty crazy. You obviously can't just eat 10 to 20,000 calories, wake up the next day and it's business as usual. It's a few days of crash dieting and excessive movement, if we're gonna call it what it is, which isn't such a big deal if you're someone giving the 10 or even 20,000 calorie challenge a shot one time, or you're a creator infrequently attempting food challenges, but living in a perpetual state of overeating and then undereating can be quite taxing, especially when you enjoy food as much as we do. But I'm supposed to be solving the mystery of why we felt uninspired to create these fun and exciting food challenge ideas. The people are waiting for a video. And if we're a couple of curious cats putting back insane amounts of food to answer ridiculous questions, why not continue doing just that? Well, there are two main things that we discovered while trying to answer that question. First and foremost, when it comes to high-calorie food challenges and ones specifically designed to test our stomach capacities, we've kind of filled most of those curiosities. We'd done so many single-sitting max-out eating stunts both during and after the pandemic to know our exact limits and capabilities when it comes to a single meal. We've now done the same multiple times within a 24-hour window. From competing against each other for who could eat the most calories in a day to diet challenges and videos that tested our eating stamina, each of which brought us to our very limit.
Lost capacity.
Nice work.
And while we could probably grow our stomachs to handle slightly more food, both in a single sitting and in a 24-hour time period over time, it would be such a slow process to make the most minimal gains And we're just not that passionate about finding the very end of our genetic potential regarding stomach space to invest the next few years into getting there. We also have no interest in exploring our capacities specifically for mega junk food binges past the 24-hour mark. The risk versus reward is just not there for us. And if you knew what waking up after eating 20,000 plus calories in a day felt like, I think you'd understand why. And we know no one was forcing us to do those things. We very much chose to create each of those videos. And again, they filled curiosities we ourselves had. So it was totally worth it, and we're very proud of them. But with an acknowledgement of our dwindling curiosity surrounding food challenges, which was our primary driver for wanting to do them in the first place, came the second discovery. We were kind of enjoying not making YouTube videos. While committing to the process of redesigning this room and stepping away from the actual content creation routine for a moment meant we didn't have to diet so freaking hard, and we could enjoy food like normal people for the first time in years. And it also presented the opportunity to focus on other interests we hadn't made time for in a while, and prioritize relationships we'd been neglecting, and get the creative reset we hadn't allowed ourselves to fully submit to, despite knowing deep down that we were a bit burnt out. Which is funny, because we were genuinely feeling frustrated by wanting to be back on the platform and start making progress again, while simultaneously acknowledging that we might actually be enjoying the very act of not doing that. But while it was nice for a minute, those feelings didn't last, and that's what brings us here. Which, having now taken y'all on the journey of explaining the start of our hiatus until now, begs the question, what is next? Is it back to food challenges and business as usual? Is it giving some of those non-massive calorie challenge style videos their chance again? Like the brand battles, the blindfolded guessing games, trying everything from a certain brand and so on? Or is it something new altogether? The honest answer is, we still aren't 100% certain. But what we do know is that we don't want to be confined to one specific thing. And obviously there's nothing wrong with someone having a preferred style video from us, but we do want to remove the expectation that every video should be us eating our entire week's calories in one day. And the only reason I have to mention that last point is because unfortunately, that is a narrative we frequently encounter when we do deviate from big 24-hour eating challenges. Because once you go so big, it's very hard to downsize the scale of food in a video or switch objectives altogether without hearing about it.
In The Psychology of Mukbang Watching, published in January 2020, the study found that the viewer's vicarious pleasure demanded a large quantity of unhealthy food to be consumed. And from a relatively uninformed outsider's perspective, the meta seems to be the bigger the better. No one wants to spend 2 minutes watching someone eat a bowl of cereal.
There is a lot of pressure to constantly be more extreme. Every YouTuber has to deal with that, because once you start doing something, you can't keep doing that thing unless you go bigger, unless you get more creative, unless you get crazier.
Despite the fact that, after all, the calorie count of a video is not essential to a piece of eating content being truly entertaining. But if we're to continue being present on this platform, we need it to be in a way that we feel is sustainable, creatively fulfilling, and continues answering fun food-related questions without the demand or pressure of it being exclusively about meeting the very limit of human caloric consumption.
I also think it's very important to have this sort of mentality, because burnout is an extremely real thing. You know, burnout occurs with lots of creators where they're just going through the motions, making stuff they don't actually want to make. I never want to feel that way.
And again, we do know there are plenty of you watching this video who are very encouraging and actually prefer the less extreme eating endeavors, which is awesome. But it does all come back to an old cliche we'd always subscribe to, being variety is the spice of life. And unfortunately, somewhere along the road, we allowed the bigger is always better thing to creep in, which made us far more insecure when wanting to deviate from the real gnarly stuff again. And that's definitely not the relationship we want to have with running this channel. Because we have had some wild, unforgettable experiences doing the crazy stuff we've done on here, and we're genuinely so stoked to have those stories to tell, which is why I really hope that this doesn't come across as complaining. But we do want to be able to enter this next chapter with complete freedom and not feel any stress around keeping our next pieces of content relevant to our history of big binging. So with that being said, we're not done. Not yet, at least. And whether we continue on here with this very channel, or maybe even start a new one, I don't know. We still don't know exactly what this next chapter looks like, but we are ready to start writing it, and we hope that y'all stick around for the ride. Just don't ask us to do the 100,000 calorie challenge.